Finance meeting is now in session. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the November 20th, 2024 meeting. So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Matt, second by Katie. Is there any amendments, discussion, corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Raise your hand. Any opposed? Abstentions? That motion carries. I know Jude's on the line, not John was going to be on the line. Bob is on the line.
You gotta fix the view so they show up there.
Did everybody hear me that's here at least? I know Jude can hear us.
We can hear you at home.
There you go. Thank you. Hey, John.
Hi.
Hi. So chairs, we had the motion of the minutes that were approved. Chairs comments. All those in favor of the minutes, say aye. Aye. That motion carries. So the chair's comments. I was not at the meeting with Jean Fitzgerald, who decided to sit down for her, she has a lot going on, a beautiful grandson, Declan.
That's
Absolutely adorable. Jean and I would say in the very beginning, probably didn't see eye to eye. But we worked very well together as time went on. We're going to be good friends. So I appreciate all that Jean's done, and I want to say thank you and wish her nothing but the best of luck. I did have the opportunity very briefly to talk to our newest BOF member, John Muller. John, you want to say hello? John, you are away, so I give you credit for showing up. I'm not sure I would have done the same thing. I'm not sure I would have answered my phone call when I called, but you did. So I welcome you aboard, and when you're here, obviously the floor will be yours, but you want to say a couple things or say hello, it's entirely up to you.
Well, thank you very much, and appreciate the warm welcome. I look forward to meeting you all in person. I will be there next month, God willing. I'm in St. John right now, so our internet connectiveness is sort of on island time from occasionally. So sometimes we block out, but luckily everything is working well tonight. I just want to say, pay my own homage to Jean Fitzgerald, who has certainly left very tough shoes to fill. And I feel like I'm in a position where she can't be replaced and I'm merely succeeding her. So I only hope that I can approach her level of quality of service to the town. I look forward to, again, meeting all of you and working with you for the benefit of the town. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Welcome aboard.
welcome.
Welcome.
And we're trying to feel bad for you.
Yeah. No, we're not.
I will share with you that my wife was with me, of course, and was a little upset today because the temperature had dropped to 80 with a wind chill of 78. So it's a little chilly.
You're pushing your luck right now.
I know that's going to get me a lot of sympathy. I understand.
Thank you, John. Any finance member comments?
I have some.
Go ahead, Katie.
So I am happy to report that the CIP committee did not have to meet at 7:30 a.m. this morning because we voted to move forward the CIP to the rest of the process. There will be a town hearing next Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. to discuss the plan at 6:30. I knew that.
That's why they're here.
Yes, thank you. So I'm grateful that I cannot thank the committee and their thoughtfulness throughout the process enough. Stacy and Kristen were, I called them the Wizard of Oz because they literally made it happen. All of our town representatives and town officials that came to present their CIP requests to us were organized and efficient. The process for as long as I have been on CIP was seamless. And so I'm so grateful for everybody. So there is, you know, I know on the agenda later that there is an agenda item to appoint a new member because Jean is no longer with us, sadly. But I don't think that will be necessary at this point. So I just wanted to,
I will be happy to table that. Okay, Jean's no longer with us on the board of finance.
She's living her best life.
Verification.
She's just not.
On the board of finance, yes.
She's not on the CIP.
Just in case, go ahead.
So I do have a couple comments, actually. Again, Dr. Muller, you know, welcome to the board. We're
Yes.
happy to have you on. Second, this is for us and also for Peggy. So I'm liaison for the Economic Development Commission. Had a conversation with Mr. Wood, and he would like to explore somehow having some budget reinstated, for this upcoming year. Just to get the work done of the EDC, when we spoke more deeply into that, it's really about personnel to be able to help out. So maybe at some point as we go into the budget season, have a conversation. I know that's out of our wheelhouse as Board of Finance, but just to bring it up for awareness.
Talking fiscal 26 now. Any other comments? Thank you. Were you finished? Okay. I'll make sure. Any other finance member, committee member comments?
Hi, John. John Rasmus. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can, John.
Hi,
Go ahead.
John.
Hello. Happy New Year, everyone.
New Year.
And welcome, John Muller. I guess we're going to have to use John M., John P., and John R. We have too many Johns on the board now.
Is there such a thing?
Never
No.
too many.
Thank you.
Just a
I
couple.
hope you don't believe in the last hired, first fired rule.
There you go. Just a couple things. You know,
Go ahead, John R.
Thank you. Just a couple things. I think that it'd be a surprise to no one. I have concerns over the Academy project, and I just am not sure if the board knows. I did comment as a citizen at the last few meetings, and I think it's something obviously we'll have to discuss in more detail. But I just wanted to throw that out there that it's certainly on my radar. And number two, I was just going through the agenda, and I know we have a $51,000 CIP transfer. I was looking through the charter, and as I went through, I think it's 10.6C or 10.1C, it seems like there's a requirement for a town meeting for any CIP transfer over $50,000. And I must be missing something because I know we've transferred more than that by special appropriation. And perhaps that's a Stacy question. Am I missing something there?
It's a Stacy question.
Yeah, I think that was the old charter.
No,
John?
I can so may I
Yep, go
comment?
ahead.
So I'm looking at it right now. So John, yes, town charter 10.6C, the Board of Finance on request of the Board of on request by the Board of Selectmen may transfer within the capital improvement plan unexpected balances from one approved project to another approved project in the amount not to exceed $50,000 in aggregate per project. A transfer in excess of $50,000 must be approved by a town meeting. However, this does say from one approved project to another approved project, as opposed, so I guess the discussion point would be we are returning as opposed to transferring from one to another.
But we have transferred in the past, and I'm looking at item number 7 on our agenda.
Yes.
2,566.42.
To the CIP technology equipment account. So I don't know. Perhaps I'm reading too deep into this, but I was assuming 250,000, and I was just reviewing the charter and was kind of surprised to see that. And I apologize. I was traveling today, so I didn't have all my notes together.
I don't apologize for asking questions. How do you feel? Stacy, do you want to say?
Yeah, so the CIP technology equipment account, that's a separate fund that has an unassigned fund balance as well. So all we're doing is moving the remaining fund balance of one project back to the master of that specific fund. So we're not moving it from one project to another project.
Did you hear her, John?
I did, I guess, project or account. I think the charter says, is it, I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, John, it says, in the charter, it says from one approved project to another.
Project.
I think if you were taking from
From a
the
project.
starting point to
Mhm.
another thing,
Undesignated
that's very
fund balance.
I mean,
different
but
than technology.
I think it's the approval of the return of the money, which I'm okay with.
Oh, I have, yeah, no, I understand when we approve a return, but in this case, we are moving it to the technology equipment account. And it was in a payroll upgrade project, correct?
No.
Correct.
So we have individual funds in the CIP and each fund has a fund balance, so to speak, or a master account. And within the technology fund, we had this payroll, HR payroll projects. We had remaining balances, so simply what we're doing in this agenda item is returning the leftover for that project back to the master account, which is in the technology reserve fund.
Of CIP.
Of CIP, it's one of many funds in the CIP. It's not a project, just moving it back into the master account to be available for other projects.
For future, okay, and then when we approve let's say, a new project out of the technology equipment account, if it's over $50,000, it would have to go to town meeting.
Again, we're not moving from project
No,
to
he's talking about-
project.
No, I'm just saying hypothetically, now we're just returning it to this master account.
The question is, if you're gonna move 50,000 someplace else from here, does that have to go to a town?
Yes.
From the master account,
Yes.
from project to project, it would have to go to town meeting.
Do you
And
hear
that's
that?
exactly why when a project has a balance, which yay, we have extra funds, we're moving it back to the unassigned fund balance within that fund. And then if we need it for another project, that would be an additional agenda item, but it's not a project to project
And I
transfer.
can tell you from being on CIP that it's necessary in future years to have those funds available.
Oh, understood. Yeah, no, I get that. Okay, I think I'm all set. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Just great point, John. Great point.
Agreed.
No, listen, bring it up.
Can
Ask the
I-
questions. Yes, you have your
Just-
hand up. Go ahead,
sorry.
Katie. You did it right. Go
Well,
ahead.
thank you. One other thing, because I gave the update on CIP, I just wanted to, and this might be something for Peggy, is since we're not talking about appointing anybody to CIP, I wonder if, I know that the Bicentennial Committee is meeting soon, and I know that there will be a budget for that, and I'm hoping that you will have a liaison from the Board of Finance that will be appointed to that committee, because I know they're starting to meet next week. And to my knowledge, we haven't heard about that, and I think it's an important thing just so that we can keep each other updated.
Yeah, well, there's no budget associated, they're gonna make a request to come to the Board of Selectmen to ask for some funding. And a lot of it's gonna be refunding for things that they would expect to get money back, but, yeah.
I think
It's great. I think John Muller just volunteered. That's nice of you, John.
voluntold.
Okay, I didn't move, but everybody else stepped back. I understand.
Amazing, John.
I'm here to serve.
Thank you. We'll give you some more information as we move along.
Thank you.
Anything, Nat, do you have something else? Katie? All right. So we have a report from our first select woman. Peggy's here. Peggy?
Well, I think obviously one of the bigger topics that is arisen is we talked about agenda. Just the other thing is you received at least a copy of my recommended budget for the town.
Mhm.
I think we're very mindful of trying to keep things as reasonable and modest as possible in this year's budget request. Staff did a great job. So we're very limited, I would say, extras in this, but we are dealing with an inflationary period. We're dealing with union contract. We're dealing with all these kind of fixed cost things that we don't have a lot of control over. And so we tried to do everything we could with the controllable side of the budget to keep things modest. So, but look forward to the conversation. I would ask and maybe this is a side conversation, but we have a budget workshop scheduled, a joint budget workshop scheduled just one night, and yet we have a lot of departments. So I'm wondering if as a board, caucus of the board, I'm gonna talk, who we actually want to come present. Do we want to have every, because we have 14 departments?
Yeah, it usually comes down to a few
Yeah,
departments.
so I think if we could hear from your group,
Sure.
who you really think, because otherwise we'll be there for 6 hours or whatever, having everybody show up. So, because you can kind of flip through and see, okay, this looks like there's a lot going on here, I want to have this person come. But I think that would be helpful so that we use the time productively. So, and for the public's benefit, you know, the budget workshop schedule, I think is posted now, on the, town website. Probably an update, I'm not sure if I shared with you, we had our person who we had hired in the communications role resigned. And so she, various reasons, but we're actively interviewing to replace that position. Got some great candidates.
Full-time
Really
or
excited
part-time?
about it. It's a full-time position. Last year, we took a half a position and made it a full position, so it's a communications manager. Plus, they do kind of other special projects.
What's the salary range?
Uh,
Or you don't want to say?
the salary, I think they posted it at like 60 to 79 or something like that range. We've gotten some great applicants already, but just want to give you a heads up. There's a little lull in terms of getting stuff up during the budget process, but we're hoping to get the position filled pretty quickly. So, so we're excited about kind of, having them involved and then, we'll also be using this, I forget what the ClearGov, program, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, so that's gonna be rolled out now, right now for the budget. That's when we're gonna have the new budget books and look and feel better. We have that new, we're not quite ready to launch it in terms of
Close.
public, we're pretty much there. So we figure by the time it gets to you guys, I think it'll be in the ClearGov.
So this budget cycle.
Yeah, it'll be part of this budget cycle, but then we wanted to go with the book that everybody's familiar with for the first step in the process. So that's it.
Thank you.
So I have just a quick comment to those two, but the first select one was saying to the Board of Finance, if there's any department you want to see, we can always bring them in ourselves afterwards if there's somebody we missed, but if there's any department you want to see, email me, text me, call me. For example, we want to make sure we want to have the police there, okay, they'll be there, but if there's any department you go through the budget you want to see, let us know. And again, to the newer members, if for some reason they're not there, or you want to see something, you can always call one of our meetings. Any questions for the first select? I know you're in the academy, so there may be some there. Thank you, Peggy. Citizens
I have
comment,
to go, actually, I've got.
citizens comment, anybody from the public would like to speak? And Gee, you gotta help me here, I don't see anybody.
No one is raising their hand online.
Second time? Third time, public information session is closed. New business, item 7, discuss and take action to approve the return.
Yes, this way.
It's kind of a pain.
Discuss and take action to approve the return of $51,566.42 into the CIP tech account, the payroll upgrade project to the CIP technology equipment pending approval by the Board of Selectmen. Can I get that form of a motion, please? Motion by Matt, second by Katie. And we had some discussion before. Any further discussion? And I can't see if they have their hands up or anything.
Yeah, this is like, I'm still.
No, there's no hands.
What's going on?
Seeing all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your
Aye.
hand. Thank you. Any opposed? Abstention, a motion
Probably
carries.
did it, but
Stand situation.
Yeah, I don't see Judy, but Peggy, that motion carries. We have discussed,
it's
discuss and take action to approve a funding request from the technology partner on $30,000 for the CIP technology equipment account for the CIP telephone upgrade project pending approval by the BOS. I get that in the form of a motion. Motion by Matt, second by Katie. Discussion.
I have just
Go ahead.
a question. Wasn't this in CIP that we approved and discussed? So how come it's in agenda item on Board of Finance?
So we need additional funds and Art Sickles on
I see
to
Art.
explain.
Okay, yeah, Art, I would love an update, just because you did a great job presenting to the CIP, I would just
Art,
love.
introduce yourself, you have board members, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. My name's Art Sickle. I'm the technology director for the town and also for the school district. Excuse me, this technology project for the telephone system upgrade has been an ongoing project for, quite some time now, probably 5 years, maybe even 6. I think that, a little bit of confusion. Our numbers for the project, we have a $261,000 response to our RFP for the remaining telephone system conversion work that we have. We started off 3 years ago, I think 3 years ago, with the police department telephone upgrade. That was in the same project account for the telephone system upgrade. That went very well. We put an RFP out relatively recently, and we received 3 responses. 2 were vendors that have done work in the town before. The third one was new, but he was also $100,000 more than the next lowest bid. The 2 bids that we got were within about $20,000, $25,000 of each other. And we have a contract that has been reviewed by our attorneys, and we're just finalizing it now with that. But it did come in at about $25,000 to $30,000 over the balance that we had in the account. And, I have to say that inflation has had a fair amount to do with that. And, our configuration is going to be much more simplified. There was a lot of leveraging of our data network in this go round, so that we're saving a fair amount of money, and we should be getting a lot of bang for our buck. There should be some great features that I know a lot of the town employees are really looking forward to. It also includes the replacement of the telephone system at the school system as well. I am also, as I said, I am the technology director for both the town and schools. And this, the last time we replaced it, it was the same kind of a scope. And that was over 10 years ago, more, maybe 12. So if you have any specific questions about the project, the need for the funding is due to just inflation and everything that's gone up. We did obviously, when we came up with the number 6 years ago, 5 years ago, we did account for what we thought the project would require out into the future, but I think time got a little bit away from us, and it's a little further into the future than we anticipated. But we're ready to go.
Questions for Art?
Yeah.
Katie?
So this is probably more of a question. Art, you did a great job and your presentation of CIP. So my question then is, how does this change or not change what CIP is pushing forward?
Yeah, so the first agenda item, where we're returning 51,000, that is increasing fund balance in the technology reserve. And now if we take out an additional 30, the difference is helping the balance in that fund.
Thank you. That helps.
Any other questions for Stacy and or Art? Seeing none, all those in favor to approve, signify by saying aye or raise your hands. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed or abstentions? The motion carries. And if you could, we have a little trouble with the viewing of the screen sometimes, so if you could, John, thank you for chiming in with the eye. That helps. Item number 9, discuss and take action to approve a return of $328,883 from CIP residual project balances to the master account. Katie was clapping. The NRE fund approved by the Board of Selectmen on December 17, 24. Do I get that form of a motion?
So
Motion by
moved.
Katie, second by Matt. Discussion. Again, if there's a,
CNRE needs it, so I'm grateful to see. It'll be another discussion as we move forward, because I still worry about CNRE, but this helps.
any other discussion or comments in that case? John, if you, anybody that's on the virtual, you just need to chime in, because I cannot see your hand raised if there is. See?
Bob and Jude are on also.
Right, so John, Bob, Jude, if you want to say something, I'm allowing to break the rules and just chime in, okay? Yeah, Jude.
I can hear fine, we just can't see.
Yeah, we can't see it either, so that's the issue.
So Jean told me that she can see everybody and it's on the Zoom. You can see everybody on the Zoom. For some reason, it's just the screen. Okay.
So Matt Gordon, you're also signed into the Zoom?
Yes.
Just so I can see if there's any questions popping up or comments, but I can see you, Bob.
Okay.
Just tell me then.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah.
Not that I'm watching anything else. All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There you go. Any opposed? Abstention? That motion carries. Yeah, item 10, discuss take action to the release of the funds from the planning reserve in an amount of not to exceed 75,000 to fund the bicycle and pedestrian use study that was approved by the Board of Selectmen on December 17th, 24. Could I get that in the form of a motion, please? Motion made by Katie, second. Second, thanks, John. In discussion.
What is the end balance after this?
The
Release?
planning reserve?
Yeah,
Yep. So after this 75,000, we still have 262,000 in the planning reserve.
260K left. Okay, any other comments or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Abstention, motion carries. 6 ayes, if anybody any opposed or abstentions, be quiet. Item 11, accept a donation from the Exchange Club of Madison, amount of $3,000 to Massachusetts Family Services for camp tuition pending approval of the Board of Selectmen.
so
Second, Aid second discussion.
thank you, Exchange Club in Madison.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Again, opposed, abstention, motion carries. Update from the ad hoc Community Center Building Committee.
Hashtag hot seat.
Okay, you want to go first?
Sure, I mean, I'm not sure who else
Joe, Ben.
yeah, Joe Valentine was gonna join, so you might wanna, I mean, just to kick it off, the Board of Selectmen has now had 2 meetings about, the status of the Academy project. One meeting, we received a report back from Colliers about the bids that we received in December. The project went out to bid, knowing that we might have a shortfall, but we weren't sure how big that shortfall was gonna be, right? So we really felt we needed the numbers to determine how much more money we would need to get the project completed. The bids came back, unfortunately, beyond our expectations, much more, way beyond the estimates that we had received. That gave a range anywhere from $5.2 to $7.6 million, depending on how you carved up the bid packages with the alternates. So obviously that, given this is a bonding project that the expectation was spending 15.9, that was a significant overage issue. So the board then, knowing this information, the Academy Committee has gone through and spent a lot of time reviewing the bids. They've made a recommendation to us at our last meeting of how much more funding they think is necessary in order to get the project across the finish line based on a recent bid package. And I think they came back at like 8 million, roughly $8 million. Yeah. So obviously the board now has to figure out what do we do, right? We have an obligation, the voters approved the project. Project budgets get blown all the time. It's not an uncommon thing in, especially in this construction market. The question is, how do you move forward? Fortunately, the town, and in your packet is a presentation that the Colliers people have provided to our board about the status of the bid package. This is probably an updated spreadsheet, I'm assuming you're giving them, right, from the last Academy meeting. And then you also have a presentation that I had given to the Board of Selectmen about the options. The positive about this is we were extraordinarily successful in getting a lot of grants for this project, way beyond our expectations. And we have about roughly $7.5 million in grants. One is a $4 million grant with the state of Connecticut through DECD, and then we had $3.6 million we received through a federal grant that was coming in through the Department of Agriculture. Knowing that, the board felt that this is a project that's been kicked around for over 20 years in town. It has been, there's a long history, there's been half a dozen committees. Every idea under the sun has been explored or talked about, contemplated. The only one that ever really got close to and to a vote was the community center. And it was supported back when it was voted on in February 2022, 55% voted for this at the referendum that we held. So I think the board is of the view that this is an important project for the town, that the town really wanted this community center. And the fact that we have the grant funding that would basically cover the budget shortfall, we're in kind of a luxury position. Most towns are not in this position, that we could take this funding and use it to pay for the cost overruns rather than having it net off the bonding. What was voted on at referendum was you bond 15.9 million, spend it on the community center, and you net off the grants. When that conversation was happening, I think all of us were thinking, hey, maybe we'll get $1 million, we'll be lucky. I don't think anybody expected to be getting, we've never gotten this amount of grant money before for a project. So I think that's where the board said, this is something we really can't just walk away from. Let's let the community make that decision. And so that's been kind of the conversations the board has had. That the board asked the town, do you want to spend the grant funding on the project so we can get it across the finish line and deliver what the community wanted back in February 2022 when they voted on this, and let the community decide. So we talked about timelines. If you want to lock in this bid package, we would have to have this approval process to use the funding by March 20th, which is when the bids expire. The other option was putting it on the budget referendum. So we lose the bids possibly, but when we do have the opportunity to perhaps repackage the project in a more focused way. So this presentation I gave you talked through all those different pros and cons. The board, I think, is pretty aligned. It wants to take this to referendum because we feel the people voted for this. Let the people make the decision about applying the grant funding. Then we got into debate about timing, and I think as we worked our way through it at our last meeting, we are leaning towards a May 6th, and there's multiple reasons why. So there's a lot to talk about. I don't know what your board wants to get into. There's a lot of background materials here. It's a big conversation, and this will come to your board as a really recommending that this go to referendum ultimately. So there'll be a vote that you would be required to do for any referendum, bonding and money related or bonding referendum, that would basically approve recommending sending it to referendum. So that's kind of the headline. Joe's here, yours to talk about the project.
And you should be able to hear me now. It's Joe Valentine.
Great. Okay, Joe.
I have it on. Peggy's been doing a fine job of summarizing it, and so I haven't needed to come in yet.
Okay.
I'm just gonna, I mean, obviously, great job with the grants and had that referendum gone differently and allowed you to use grants in excess of the bond, and you wouldn't be here right now. On the other side of this project is 50% off the mark, so that's a concern to me. But just from what I'm hearing now, what I know about it, you know, I'd be much more comfortable just going to referendum, let the public decide, because and I don't want to see a vacant building either, but you know, and I do understand that the grant money that you worked hard to receive, but as opposed to trying to rush through this and get something ready, even though we lose the bid to March, right now, where I stand would be to go to referendum. But let me open it up to the Board of Finance members, comments. John, I know Rasmus, you had a comment before. You want to?
I do. I mean, I'm concerned that $23 million is going to be enough. I'm hearing other things. I believe the people voted for a $15.9 million community center with the understanding that there would be grants. So I'm really discouraged about this project, and I just think it's going to. I think the building's in much worse shape than it was a few years ago, and what people were led to believe in when it went to referendum. And I would be hard pressed to put more money into this project, but that's my feeling, and I know there's 7 members of this board.
Okay, John, thanks. And any comments or questions?
Just, you know,
Can I answer John's, just a reply to John? John, we looked at the referendum as approving what a community center would look like. And that was our focus for getting the current price or cost that you have. It wasn't the community voted for a community center that looked and had certain features. We took all the things we thought were part of that and interpreted them and got that into the budget proposal that we proposed to the Board of Selectmen. So it wasn't, maybe it was the 15.9 they voted for, but they also voted for the look and feel of the community center. And we feel the proposal we have delivers the look and feel of what they voted for.
Correct, but not at $15.9 million, obviously.
Yeah, so thanks, John. Peggy wanted to say a few words. I know Matt has a question. Go ahead, Peggy.
Well, I just want to comment that we're still only going to be bonding for $15.9 million. So the taxpayer is, the way this question is going to be wording, it's not going to be, can we go out and bond for more money? It's going to be, can we take the grant funding and apply it to the budget rather than netting it off the bonds? So when people voted on this, they had no idea how much grants, we could have gotten nothing. We could have gotten $100,000. And in past practices, likely that's all we would have seen, maybe 2 million or something. So I think we showed numbers about what it would cost you, what the impact on taxpayers was. I do want to highlight, we also talked about the operating costs, because I know there's been a lot of questions about that. That was shown back in 2022. There was an annual, what personnel was going to be needed, what the utility costs were. We're updating all those numbers because things have gotten more expensive. So what was presented back then was the $15.9 million impact on your taxes, and then the operating costs. So we would intend to do the exact same thing again this time.
Okay. Matt, go ahead. Yeah, I know you want to-
Yeah, so I think I understand this, but just for clarity and for transparency, so during your presentation, you put up options, right? And really the two options were about the timeline, things like that, but the question that's gonna go out is using 15.9 as the bonding cap, and then the grants, anything else would be on top of that. But still, we will not know what the price of this project will be at the time of referendum. Because the bids will expire, we'll have to go out to bidding again. So again, the public will not know what the actual price is gonna be when we go to referendum.
Good.
And we talked a lot about this at our last meeting. So you've got a double-edged sword here. If you stick with the bids, let's be all honest, the bids are horrible, right? It went out messy, a large project with a lot of, not to the fault of Colliers, but just because we knew they wanted a menu of options, right? Because we thought this was gonna be, okay, we might be short $1 million, so we can kind of take this out or take this out and meet the budget. That didn't happen. So I think the view is we have kind of worst case scenario on one side, the cost estimates are on the other side. And we're hoping when it's repackaged, and this was what our construction manager had talked about, that it would be a more attractive project, plus it'll have all the funding there, right? So if you rebid this after you get a new budget, the bidders will know this is the funding package that's secured. The estimate that came in before the bids went out was higher than what the budget was. It was like $2 to $3 million over, $3 million.
About 3 million.
Yeah, about $3 million over. So already it was kind of going out to bid without secured funding. So I hear you, and I think this was our debate, bird in hand, or do we gamble again? But I feel like now this is,
I think you have to go.
Well, to your point, in your meeting that you had yesterday morning, I think, I forget the gentleman's name that came on, but I think typically you do have an amount and then it goes out to the bidders, right? We couldn't do it this way. So at least going forward after referendum, we can circumscribe what that number is going to be.
You know what the number of the competitive bid prices, they're supposed to sharpen the pencils.
Yeah.
Best they can, but where we are now is,
If I
yes,
can
go
add
ahead.
a comment, John Copus from Colors Project Leaders. There is a possibility in reaching out to the two low bidders to see if they will hold their numbers beyond the March 20th deadline. So if that's something that you want us to entertain, we can reach out to the two low bidders, who are the two that we have been in communication with previously, to see if they will extend the holding of their bids until the referendum day.
And that's something we've talked about with also our construction manager. I think we're kind of weighing the pros and cons of that for various reasons. And there'll be a recommendation about that. Do we try to keep them to hold it or not? Then you really have to align. You have to pick one bidder and get a commitment, and then we're committed. So, that's a possibility too.
Dave?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So either for John or Mr. Valentine, you did present yesterday about some of the alt ads, holding them off from here and why. Could you re-explain that again for the Board of Finance?
There were 11 alternate alt ads to the basic construction bid. They were ranked by the committee from the most important to the least important. And we discussed them all individually, and what we managed to do was we managed to pick the ones that were key to the project and matched the look and feel of the building as it was presented to the public in the first referendum, in the February of 22 referendum. There were 3 that did not have a value in having the general contractor do it, but they still had a value to the town and to the look and feel of the building. We determined that if the town handled those, once the construction was complete or nearly complete, that we would get a better value by, say, buying the playground equipment than letting the general contractor buy the playground equipment with its markups. There were also 2 that were determined as not necessary, and they were taken off they were taken out of the bidding out of the budget process totally. In further discussions, we looked at least one of the bid packages, the one for the stages, and we took some scope out of those about the 2 stages, and we brought the cost of those stages down while keeping the infrastructure for a future expansion of either of the stages. We then added what we thought was a reasonable contingency and escalation on things that hadn't been purchased yet, and came up with a final number that we presented to the board on Tuesday morning.
Thank you. And so, but as we go forward and when we're thinking about the total cost, the cost of those, if you go through a different vendor or construction, that we still will know the total amount of this project, correct? Even with those?
Depending on how we go forward, either way, we will know after it goes out the second time if it goes out for a second time a bid, or we hold the bid from the existing vendors. We'll have a fairly good idea of what the total cost is going to be. There are always some changes, change orders that come. We have a contingency for those. We hope that that contingency will cover any change orders. If there are any major changes in scope that are unanticipated, that could affect the project either way. We could remove scope, or there could be some issues that may need to be addressed that we have not foreseen. But I mean, we've been doing this project. The committee's been doing this project for 2 years, along with the Colliers and QAM. I hope we've exhausted every possibility in those 2-year discussions.
So to that point, thank you, Mr. Valentine, but to the point that you just made, you've been doing this for 2 years. And I know that we had a special town meeting on Monday, and your committee was still doing work. When will your committee wrap up its work and be done with all the tweaks and changes? And we'll know exactly what we're dealing with.
For the current bid process, where we were going to take one of the existing bidders, we had wrapped up that work. What we can do if we're going to go to a second round of bidding, we can re-examine everything we've done and take a further look at it to see if it needs to be tweaked at all. We would just be able to spend a little more time with each of the ad alternates, whether we keep them in or put them in the bid package. And then we would have once we know what the town is going to do in terms of either taking the existing bid or making sending out for new bids after the next referendum, we will know what we'd be able to develop what we would consider to be as accurate a cost as you can get in a project like this.
Thank you.
Katie?
Thank you. So first, Joe, I want to thank you and your committee. I'm kind of a groupie and watch all of your meetings, so I know how difficult the deliberations have been, and I appreciate all the work that you all are putting in, so thank you for that. I, with my colleagues, agree that this has to go back to referendum, and appreciate the Board of Selectmen and their debate on that piece. I am relieved to know that there will be no more impact to the taxpayer than the 15.9 that was approved at referendum. I had hoped that the grant money would offset that 15.9, but clearly that's not the case. However, without the additional bond money, we'd be asking for an increase to what the voters approved. And I also, as John did, spoke at your hearing, and I did not vote in favor of this project initially. However, I do respect the vote that was cast and understand the position that the town is in at this point. So my question is then, so if the referendum fails, and I know it's a big if, but what happens next? Like what, we're still on the hook for 15.9, and what do we get?
Well, we do it, but.
So part of the discussion we had was that, and I know there's been a lot of discussion out there in the public about, well, I also want to vote on just canceling the project. So with a referendum, you can only ask a question that starts with shall and has a yes or no answer. We can't have multiple choice. We can't have questions that contradict each other, right? Because you could actually get a voter that would vote for yes to use the funds and yes, I want to tear it down. So then you're like, okay, what do I do with that? So that is the nature of this, that we can't, it's not going to be a multiple choice and like, I want to do this or want to do that. We are working from the assumption the community wanted this and they want to see it built. And now we're just asking, do you want us to spend more money on it so we can deliver the vision?
But it's not really more money on it.
Yeah, well,
It's not more than 15.9.
It's spending though, the town, that's why we have to get the vote, we're spending more, it's not coming from the taxpayer, it's using the grant money. So, if it were to fail at referendum and people decided, then I think the board is gonna have to step back and deliberate about the next steps. The board's option, we talked about this at the meeting, that's what the last column was about. There are multiple choices there. Shore up the building and figure out another use. We're gonna have to spend money to keep it sitting there for a while because it needs some investment in it and it's been deteriorating. But this deterioration has been going on for 20 years. It's not just in the last 2 years. It's been 20 years. If it gets torn down, that's gonna cost at least $2 million, right? So the money that we bonded so far is about $6 million that is earmarked for this project. We would have to spend that bonding money to demolish it or to put in some investment to kind of preserve it, right? For a process that we would decide where we want to go with it after that. I will say that every idea has been talked about over the years, right? So, I think that the board will then have to choose a path going forward.
Do we know what the building has cost us year over year just sitting there? And
well, it's cost us in deterioration and see capital like investment that's required. It's really no operating cost because unfortunately, which I don't think it was the best decision, a long time ago, they just shut off all the power and all the water, and that has caused some of the problems, right? So that was kind of a decision that was made a long time, which was the town inherited it, I think. The town got it in 2011. And so that was a decision made ways back. So it is because of that, it's, had a lot of issues. And I do want to highlight the presentation because I know John has been spoken about issues and that the public was not told things. there was not a lot of structural investigation done prior to putting the budget together. There was a typical, estimated construction budget that was done. That was based on historic buildings of that size and at the time. That budget originated in 2018 when they started putting the community center information together. Escalations were added again when we took it to referendum and accommodated for the fact that we were gonna have some municipal offices. We didn't go out and spend a lot of money because we didn't have the money to open up the walls and to do all these testing and do all that other stuff. Well, since then, now we've had the money to do that, and so they're finding things, which happens in any renovation of an old building, right? And so I think those things along with, and I put in the presentation that you got in your packet, what the drivers of some of this are. More MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing had to be redone. Then, Colliers was working with us back in 2018, 2019, when they put the construction budget together, then was anticipated. So there were a lot of things that, and then I will say the septic turned into a chain of events. The hope was to just restore and upgrade the septic system. They determined you can't even use it now, and it has to be moved completely. So it was in the interior courtyard of the building. It's now having to go to another site location, which has required that whole site to be redone. The whole parking lot has to be ripped up and torn. The playground has to be removed. So there was a chain of events that led to other costs that got built into this budget. So that was another reason we've seen the budget escalate. And then obviously, construction costs have escalated 20% a year since 2022. So, anyway, so having said all that, that's why we are at this point of having to face this deficit. And I think then, it really is the community's decision about whether or not it wants to take the grant money and use it and get it done. And I will encourage people to look, I don't know if anybody saw the visuals of the Board of Selectmen meeting. We're gonna be packaging all this for the public. It's gonna be transformative to that part of the town. The outdoor landscaping that's happening with this now that they had to redo the parking lot. I mean, it is gonna be incredible. It is gonna change the look and feel of that whole part of our downtown. So, part of this exercise is reminding people of why they voted for this. And I think we've just forgotten it over the last couple of years. So we will be trying to remind people of why this is gonna be a benefit of the community. And ultimately let them make the decision if they want to move forward. So long-winded answer, as usual.
I want to see if anybody else on the board, to Matt and Katie, I don't want to monopolize. Does anybody else on the board have a question? And I'll go to Katie and Matt. All right, raise Katie, for you, go ahead.
So, the debt service regulation, that was projected back when the referendum first happened. I assume, but I would like
Stacy.
clarification, that the grant money doesn't change that. I mean, I know that we've been more conservative in terms of, what we, would like the regulation to, although it's not strict policy, but, does it change anything?
So their projections, as Peggy said originally, we didn't know about these two grants.
Great,
So
Right.
we were assuming that we
You
would
had bond for the full
bond
thing.
for the full amount for the county.
so
Good
that original chart is still accurate. Thank you.
Actually, it's better because we have more money for the school project.
Right. But
Right.
Is what I'm just saying.
Katie,
It was all packaged
point,
together,
at the
so,
time,
yeah.
you didn't figure it, you said
Yeah.
much grant money at all, so you had the full 15.9.
Yeah.
And my other question
Oh,
is,
man.
so the, sorry, I'm always in trouble. So the, is there any, I know with the schools, which I'm much, are a little more familiar with, I'm getting more familiar with this, because I'm along, but are there any reimbursement to restoring this building that we had for schools that we might realize from the state?
Are you still using it as an academy?
Academy.
But you're saying-
But so I know the schools, when there is an option when you're restoring versus building new, there was an incentive. Is there anything like that for town or municipal buildings?
Well, so there's more grants that we can apply for. I think one of the things that we've been, we've known for like a year, the Academy Committee knew there was a budget issue and they've been trying to value engineer this thing, right, back and forth. So I think the focus has been far more on the design, now that we actually have a design that I think that of what the components are, that helps us even more apply for specific grants.
Sure.
We still haven't talked to SHPA, which is the historic preservation. The downside of that though is now, are you layering on other costs, right? So we've kind of tried to be strategic. The two grants that we've received have very, particularly the state grant has not a lot of, strings attached in terms of what we have to do for the building. So, but we were talking, there's some other things we might want to go for, especially now that this is morphed into kind of the area around it. So there's more brownfield related grants. So we will continue to try to get more grant, and that will go towards that,
We're gonna
alternates.
So, anyway, that was another long answer for.
That's okay, and it used to be, if there was some of this was used for education. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to jump off of Katie's point too. What if this referendum has a no? And if there's a no vote and we do have to stay within the 15.9, it goes back, I'm sorry, going back, it goes back to the 2022 referendum. In that case, we cannot achieve the scope for the money. And in the Board of Finance regulations, so my read, we have to have official, but that does give us the ability to say, no, we're not going to continue. The Board of Finance could say, no, we're not going to continue because we can't achieve it, we can't make the progress. So if there's a no vote, we might have to go back as a board to talk about this.
And one, you want the legal opinion. Two, to me, if we were gonna go down that road, and Peggy's probably gonna kill me, I actually asked for another referendum to see if they wanted to scrap the project. That's because, as Peggy said, you can't have them both in the Mason.
Right.
Referendum. But
Yeah,
I feel
I think,
much more comfortable with
and first, I think, first of all, this concept of, what is the scope of the project, right? And what can we get for 15.9, right? I think we feel, and they actually did come back, the committee, with an attempt to value engineer down this more, right? It left out, I think, the wow factor, so to speak. When I say wow factor, I mean the bigger entrance where the elevator was located. There were a lot of things, design elements that you could try to cost cut your way down into a building renovation. You turn the gym off the back. I mean, there are things you can do. But I think we as a community, we have to decide, is that really what we wanted from this, And I think that is gonna be an important conversation. In terms of I think we would have to talk to council, because you're also dealing with bonding referendums now, and so, the Board of Selectmen can cancel the project, and we heard that from the town council or bonding council that night. So if we cannot achieve scope, to your point, I think there has to be a big conversation, and we want to just take that vote and tear the building down. I don't think that the board would feel comfortable with that. Keeping in mind that one of the primary reasons is this isn't just about a community center, it's preserving part of our history in our town center, right? And so the building itself had value. If this were just, do we want to build a community center from scratch because we need a community center versus not, I think that's a different conversation. This is about that building too, preserving it. So, but I hear what you're saying. It will be, I think, a big discussion, and we have to get, I think, the community behind us, whatever we do moving
I
forward.
think the next steps are to continue this discussion and at some point go with the May 6th referendum and let them, the public, get as much accurate information as we can out there and go from there. Because otherwise, you having a vacant building, people are going to forget too. If it's done and done right, there's going to be a draw for you downtown. To me, if I was a business owner around there, I kind of think that is a nice thing. Any other questions? Do appreciate the update.
Yes, very much, and thank you
Thank you
for all of your
for being here.
thoughtfulness and hard work.
I'm sure we're gonna have more discussions on this and we'll have a few budget meetings and for the work.
For the time also in reviewing this, we appreciate your involvement. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joe.
Joe, John, Peggy. All right. So that was So as we all know, item 13, Gene has, which I wasn't officially aware of until fairly a little while ago, but Gene has stepped down from the Board of Finance. As John will be here, the person that we will need action to elect the vice chair. I'd like to ask for nominations for vice chair. Katie?
So I would like to nominate Matt Gordon for the position of vice chair. Listen, we live in a hyper-partisan state and country. And I am so proud to live in Madison, where we have a tradition of bucking that trend, and I believe it demonstrates that there's no room for partisanship in town government. This board has always worked well together, and despite our occasional differences, we've modeled civility and compromise. Matt is the obvious choice to be vice chair. He's embraced his work for our town with enthusiasm, devotion, and positivity, and good old-fashioned hard work. I know that he will embrace this new role in the same way, and I'm happy to nominate him.
Okay, so we have a nomination for vice chair. Katie? Is there a second for Matt?
I would like to second that nomination.
You have every right to do so, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I talked to Matt about this, and I think he has the energy to take this on, and I know he will be a great vice chairman of the Board of Finance. So I would like to second that nomination.
I agree. I'm going to say a couple of comments, but I want to know if there's any other nominations for vice chair. Second time, Matt, second time. Seeing none, I'm gonna, nominations are closed, and before I ask for the vote and to approve and second, I just want to say a couple of things. Matt, you've shown up, we've communicated very well. Obviously, Gene and myself communicated very well with the rest of the board. Really appreciate the effort. As Katie said, we don't always agree, but this board we work very well. I think it's exceptional. Nobody takes anything personal, very respectful. If there's something going on, we have a healthy discussion, and I think that's great. And if times where Matt says, John, I don't like this on the agenda, I'm going to bring this up. He actually has called to give me the heads up, and I really appreciate that. He's not trying to grandstand or do anything like that. So I know he'll do an excellent job. And, it's really not just this board, but Madison. It's amazing how well, there is no RD or DR next year. Everybody works to do its best for Madison. And I'd love to see the state and federal side do the same, as people work together for the best ideas. And, it shouldn't be if you're an R, every D idea is bad and vice versa. It's supposed to be working together. So I think we'll do an excellent job, and I do appreciate it. All right, so that long-winded speech, I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna have to find myself next time. See that there's no other nominations. Motion to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you.
Congrats. Thank you, Matt, for stepping up.
So we have item 14. Yes, I'm sorry, Matt. I'd like to say something.
Thank you. No, I would say coming into so one quick thing, coming into this and seeing if this was something that I want to do with the board to go for the election. I was talking with Phil. And John, to your point, Phil Moore had said his advice to me was that there is no R&D, there's no color. The only party that you should have is Madison.
Amen.
So
Absolutely. Thank you. Demonstrate that. So that's the next thing.
Yay,
We
Phil
all-
Moore.
So congratulations. So we also have this, I'm gonna table item 14, since I'm pretty sure the CIP plan is pretty much done. Hopefully no one minds. We have the review of the financials. Any questions? Speaking of Fillmore, any questions? Stacy?
My printer read out.
Seeing none. Citizen comments. Anybody from the public would like to speak? Matt?
No.
Second time? Third time? Public information session is closed. I would like a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
The meeting is adjourned at 8:05 PM. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for your time.